I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago. And I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Elf7. Today I have a very special guest. Now, I like to hunt down all these different organizations, and to tell you the truth, this organization right here that I'm talking to today, they're actually one of the, running the streets. They're one of the ones that's kind of like been doing it for like the longest that I know, like out of all the organizations that I know out there, like of their kind, and much respect out there. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
Okay, so I'm Judy Greenspan, and I am a member of Workers' World Party. And I have actually been in Workers' World Party since 1976. So I have been actually running in the streets for even before then, if we want to get into my history. But Workers' World Party has been around since 1959, and it is definitely an organization that is very active and doesn't sit back and just think about things, but actually tries to do something about it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate and respect that. Honestly, there's a lot of armchair activists out there, and everybody's got to do what they can. But you learn so much more by actually doing. So that's really, so much love and respect out to the real activists out there. Not the real, I mean like activists in the streets. Yeah, because we all have our different elements. So I don't want to put down. It's a little bit of insult to call from an armchair activist.
And what we work hard to do is to try to organize people so that they will join us in the streets. Yeah. Because we think that it really is the struggle from below. It's not the struggle from above that is going to bring about what we believe is hopefully eventually socialist real change in this country.
Yeah. And because the thing is that we're looking for equality, not privilege. So really appreciate that, you know what I mean? So now you dipped a little bit into your personal active background and activism. Maybe you could go a little bit more in depth in that.
Okay, and I will try not to talk too much about it, but I've actually been active since I was very young. I was privileged enough to grow up in the 60s, and I say that because I know a lot of young people think, wow, I wish I had been there in the 60s. So there was a lot of things going on, and I was a radical in middle school and in junior high school, as well as in high school, and continued being involved in many different movements. The student movement, I was in high school, I was part of high school Students for Democratic Society, and we supported the Black Panther Party, and did a lot of prisoner support work, because at that time people were being thrown into prisons. The Panthers and others were being thrown into prisons for their activism, and continued through in the early 70s. I was active in the beginnings of the lesbian and gay, bisexual, transgender movement in Wisconsin, and helped start sort of the lesbian movement there, and moved on to in the mid 70s joining Workers' World Party and continuing my activism, because what attracted me about Workers' World Party was that all the issues that I felt so dearly, Workers' World Party was willing to take up. And one of those issues was the issue of support for Palestine, which I feel as a Jewish activist, or somebody with a Jewish tradition, that I've always supported the right of Palestinian people to be free, and from the river to the sea.
Okay, we're having a little bit of technical issues with the internet in a moment.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So the Palestinian work is great. Actually, I know there's a group out here called Jews for Racial Economics and Justice. I don't know if you ever heard of them from the East Coast, but
yes, I have.
They're real cool, and they also do a lot of that type of work too. And much love out there, you know what I mean? A lot of people want to point a finger at Jews and say this or that, but there's a lot of them doing work for Palestinians as well. So much love out for that,
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. And this was at a time when there were not a lot of people who were other than Palestinians and international activists who were taking a stand in support of Palestine. And Workers' World Party was solidly in support of Palestine at that time. Also in the mid-70s, there was a lot of confusion in the left about lesbian and gay oppression. And at that time, we didn't talk about transgender oppression because there was not a transgender movement. In fact, that word was not even a word in our vocabulary at that time. But Workers' World Party took a very early stance. In fact, came up with a Marxist understanding of the fight for LGBTQ liberation, which I thought was and welcomed. I mean, the fact Workers' World Party welcomes one of the foremost transgender activists, Leslie Feinberg, into the party, who was in Buffalo, who actually came to Workers' World Party in Buffalo. But so it was that issue. It was the issue of many, the issue of the socialist countries and the issue of supporting the socialist countries. All of these things sort of coalesced in a lot of the organizing I was doing, and I just immediately joined Workers' World Party.
And those,
because I felt like that was the group. Anyway.
It's kind of funny. No, it's kind of funny how things run with that, because nowadays, like, the thing is that, back, like, when I was growing up, like, I'm in my 40s now, the thing is that, there was actually, like, there was widespread violence against gay people. It was it was a messed up time. I think people of today's generation don't really know how bad it really was for gay and lesbian people. It was just really bad, you know what I mean? And even the racism was bad, but, like, the gay and transgender stuff, like, that was, it's probably still not, like, ideal, but it was real bad. But nowadays, a lot of people, like, there's this, like, anti-feminist thing going on. A lot of people feel it's oppressive, and I think that they have some validity to what they're saying. But, honestly, I have much love out to the I have no problems with gay, lesbian, or transgender people, at all, you know what I mean? And I really feel like that was really, and I'm glad to see some, and I wish that more people really attended to their issues. I think the bathrooms and stuff is important, but they have a lot more deeper issues going on with, discrimination, right? That, like, I guarantee they're not treated fairly in the workplace. I guarantee that they're making less money. I guarantee that they're like undergoing violence. But, it seems like
the black transgender activists out here are not only themselves victims of police violence and police terror, but are in the
own communities.
Struggle. Yeah. They are in the forefront of the struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Against the police attacks on black and brown youth.
Not only that, but within their own communities, right? The black community, right? Because a lot of people who are, like, I would say, like, maybe activists, they're afraid to, like, confront people who are black in general, right? Because they're like, oh, you're a privileged class, so you're underprivileged class, so I cannot say anything. You know what I mean? So when they see a black person committing violence upon a black transgender person, they won't say anything. Like, you gotta say something. Yeah. You gotta, like, help them out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But the oppression that we're feeling, particularly here, I mean, Oakland has one of the highest rates of police terror and police violence against black and brown communities, particularly youth. And many of that is directed against the transgender community. So I'm not talking about, I'm really not talking about black on black violence. I'm really talking about state violence. And I'm just saying that the transgender activists have been, when we've had many actions where we've surrounded the police department, where we surrounded the jails, and right now during COVID-19, the cry is that we in Workers' World Party take to heart is free them all, because people are dying and getting infected at alarming rates inside prisons. And transgender activists are right there. Many of them are former prisoners. They're out there saying, absolutely, let's release them now. Absolutely, let's stop the police violence.
Yeah, and I think that those issues are more important. Because the thing is that I tried to activate, I went back to school as a post-bac, and I tried to activate, the lesbian, gay, and transgender community to, like, take on, like, more serious issues, but all they were worried about was the bathroom. I was like, you guys can do so much more than that, like, we can really, forge new ground, like, as in terms of, like, the real the problem of violence and, and economic oppression, but... it was all about the bathroom.
But you know what, the bathroom issue is an important issue, but
it's important, but I was like,
As someone who gets stopped going into women's rooms often, it is a major issue, and we definitely need gender neutral.
Yeah, gay rights are so much more than but I feel you. Yeah, I was sympathetic to that. I was like, this is good, but that's cool. So, what are the current goals of Workers' World Party?
Okay, well, obviously socialism. Socialism is the goal that we've always had, but I will say that right now what we're trying to do is this is a difficult time. Let's be frank. This is not a time of let's go out into the streets and organize. This is a time where people are worried about COVID-19 and are worried about infection. And I don't know if you've seen, recently China, for example, which where it may or may not have originated there, but they're they're trying to prevent a second infection, and they are taking very, very strong measures, which totally make sense. And they're the only things that will probably save. They're going to totally test the whole city, right, of Wuhan, 11 million people. And this country, Trump is like, what's a test? Why do we need testing? You know, so it's like,
have you heard about
right? So it gets in the way. It's totally, you know, COVID-19 is hurting all of our organizing, although people are doing creative things, and we totally support all of the car caravans, the small in-person, 6 foot away protests that have been happening. But we believe, you know, we believe that what COVID-19 has done is that it has put a light on an economic crisis that was there to begin with. It has exacerbated a very serious economic crisis that we don't think capitalism is going to be able to get out of it at this point. And in fact, when things reopen, unfortunately, a lot of places will not reopen, which means with an unemployment rate, which officially at this point, right, is about 30 million. We think unofficially is much higher, upwards of 50, perhaps 60 million, because of the fact that the unemployment rate does not reflect the undocumented workers, the gig workers, the people who even can't get online to file for unemployment because, you know, the lines are jammed and they don't have the technology, sex workers who are not recognized, people who are forced to, you know, to work under the counter because there's no, because the jobs are not recognized. So it's a very serious situation. We don't think many of these jobs are not going to come back. Capitalism right now is trying really hard to pay themselves off, right? So these big businesses don't go under, but they're really not caring because, you know, I'm you know, as a, you know, you could say, well, you know, your workers will party, but I'm also a public school teacher. And I work in a very oppressed neighborhood in Oakland of Black and Latinx children. And this whole pandemic has totally thrown them off kilter, has thrown their families off kilter. They don't have access, you know, it's just all of the inequality. This has just sort of exacerbated and sharpened all of the racism and inequalities with capitalism.
And
right?
actually,
had it been a socialist society, it would be so different because there would be planning, there would be, you know, or if there wasn't planning, there would be self-criticism about what they could have done better and people trying to work. But the working class has been cast aside in this pandemic.
Yes, I actually, with some of that I agree, but I agree most as in terms of like the reprioritize. I think we had the wrong priorities. We had prioritized greed too much. So too many people were like, "Oh, we're gonna take these jobs. We're gonna put them overseas because we can make more money off of it. Oh, we don't have any masks. Oh, we're gonna make the drug industry. We're gonna make more money from like you know, from like Viagra, right? Instead of saying like we're gonna make money to like, you know, treat the regular flu. There's no money in like treating the regular flu, so we're not gonna pay attention to that. We're going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's been.
But you know, it's interesting because, for example, during World War II, there was the Defense Act where the government actually ordered industries to stop making something and to start making something else. A lot of industries had to retool during World War II, right? So if you lived in a socialist society, it would make sense that first of all, hopefully you would have enough ventilators, but you would stop production somewhere. You would not allow, right now there are entrepreneurs making $15 per mask because all these private entrepreneurs are being able to make masks rather than the government commandeering the mask situation or the hand sanitizer situation or the ventilator or the hospital beds, you know, but you sort of said, what is our goal? So right now, we do believe.
What are the current goals?
The current goals are to support the struggles of the workers in terms of everything. But we have sort of, I think, you know, in terms of a unique view of what the working class is, because the fact is, the working class is not just organized labor. If you look at just organized labor in this country, that's less than 9%. And right now, the government is trying to privatize the post office, which would be such a blow to so many people. But so we're looking at workers who are not organized in unions. We're looking at Amazon workers. We're looking at fast food workers. This country has gone from the industrial, right, factories to the service sector.
Yeah,
to the
that's so hilarious. Yeah,
workers.
The post office is the one thing in this country that works good, and now they're gonna break that too. The one thing that works good. Well, why are they gonna change it? That's the one thing. Yeah.
The biggest. It is also of Black workers and women workers, so it will be a tremendous blow. But what I'm saying is that we're seeing activism, and we uphold and support the activism of workers in whatever form they are. In other words, if they're not union members, Amazon workers, right? We reached out to the Amazon workers, Chris Smalls and the others who were fired in Staten Island, and showed our solidarity. We had Chris Smalls on a national webinar. We've been trying to help him reach out to people across the country. He was fired for trying to organize the warehouse, one of the largest warehouses that Amazon has. Yeah. And so we're trying in whatever way we can, through our newspaper, through our comrades who, to try to reach out and embrace and support the many struggles of the workers. And also to talk about, we include within the working class incarcerated workers. We believe that people behind the walls.
Oh yeah, they're replacing
hundreds of thousands of people, and who are facing not just facing a crisis, but they are workers and they're part of our class, and we have to support them.
Yeah,
and we are saying we're not just saying, we're saying release them all. We're saying free them all, and we're trying to deepen our support and to the entire to the prison abolition movement. Yeah, to the movement under capitalism.
Did you hear that there was some sanitation workers, right? Sanitation workers.
Oh yeah.
And because they dared to ask for hazard pay, right, during this time, because obviously, right, people sneezing like crazy, throwing the Kleenexes into the garbage bags, and they got to pick it up, right? Because they even dared to mention it, they already replaced them with prison labor,
right?
And paying them paying them just a fraction of what the regular workers were making in the first place.
Right, and then there's the bus drivers and the bus drivers and the transit workers and all. It's sort of like this pandemic has thrust everyone has become a frontline worker.
The incentives are
and
all
nobody's being treated that way.
Yeah,
but people who work in McDonald's are frontline workers, and McDonald's workers have been going out on wildcats. All of these strikes are not sanctioned.
They'll call you a hero, and then they'll replace you with prison labor. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how these people think. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting.
No. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also if you are a McDonald's worker and you're trying to organize, you're going to get fired.
Yeah, so that should be illegal. That's unconstitutional. That's the right to assemble. You know what I mean? How are they going to not permit people to...
it's a whole discussion. The Constitution is only really...
Well, it can be amended, right? It's not perfect.
Who support the capitalist system. So, for example, what we are seeing in New York and some of the major cities is that the police have, and I knew this was going to happen. The police have been basically arresting the people in the Black and brown community who they say are either not wearing the right masks or not doing social distancing. But look at all of these white right-wing groups that are able to congregate on state capitals, whether it's Albany or whether it's Sacramento, wherever they are. They haven't been arrested. They come with guns. They haven't been arrested. I mean, the Black Panther Party, God forbid, when they marched on the Capitol with the guns, which, by the way, were not loaded, they were all arrested. Yeah. So it's like there's a double standard. So what we would say in Workers' World Party is, number one, who wrote this Constitution? The founding fathers, who were slave owners, who were white male slave owners who own land and people. And who is this Constitution benefiting? And the system makes sure that it is the rich, it is the right wing, it is the supporters of the most
Yeah, WWP,
right-wing
Workers'
fascistic
World.
element.
Yeah, Workers' World is definitely a revolutionary party. There's no question about it. They're definitely revolutionary. That's cool. That's
But
cool. I got no problem with that. Yeah. So
okay,
now you have like a lot of years in the game, right? Now the thing is that like, has your perspective changed? Like since you said you saw with Workers World probably all the way back in 1976, and that's just Workers World, right? You went before that, but you've been in the game for a long time. How has your perspective changed? Because I meet a lot of these people who are like internet internet activists, and they don't really have a lot of time in the game, right? As in terms of like promoting these types of rights for others. What?
well, Workers' World Party has always realized that our revolution in this country is dependent on all of the revolutions and all the struggles around the world. So we've always had an international perspective, and there's a very large part of the movement now, even larger, I think, these days than maybe was in 1976. That looks and supports all of these international struggles. There's the Filipino community, which has a really deep roots in the struggle in the Philippines, as well as how that impacts people who have come, people in the diaspora, so to speak, who have come to the United States. There's the right now we have the examples of, well, we have Cuba, we have
I have to totally agree with that, right? Because because what, the mainstream media does not put out any information. Like, they do not allow us to get the truth. Like, if there's wars going on, like back in Vietnam, you got to see the pictures, and then the thing is that there was a crisis of conscience in the people, and said, we can't do all these wars. This is ridiculous. This is wasteful. This is not cool.
Yeah.
But now they just keep it all quiet, and they're wasting billions of dollars that could be used to help us, to promote these the suffering in other countries. It's disgusting.
Right.
So that international perspective is actually something that I think a lot of people who are watching the show right now, that's really true. And that's a great thing to, for the listeners out there, start paying attention to. The struggle is not just here, and I'm not really ready to say that I'm completely socialist, all that, but I'm very I don't think that socialism is the enemy either, but actually international, pay attention on all these things that they're trying to cover up. Absolutely.
And I think, and Workers' World Party, as well as other groups, have always felt that our role, we're in, to coin the phrase, belly of the beast, right? Which you use an old phrase. We are really in the belly of the beast. And our job is to show international solidarity with as many struggles, because everyone really just about is in the shape that they're in because of U.S. imperialism.
And it has to be that way because the corporations are multinational. The corporations are multinational. So for anything to work, we will also have to be multinational as well. I agree with that 100%.
Oh, we'll definitely have to be multinational, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we also have to realize that we have, in this country, and have a particular responsibility, and that is to to stop the war machine. The war machine is our responsibility in this country, in the sense that our class's responsibility. Yeah. And we have to turn the guns around. We have to stop the U.S. military from. There's all sorts of concern right now that what war is the U.S. ruling class going to start or exacerbate or to try to get itself out of this crisis. This is sort of like, remember the Depression of the, I don't remember in your history, but remember in history books, the Depression really, the way that that capital got itself out of this Depression was World War II. And World War II, that's a whole other discussion, but as far as I'm concerned, it was not fought to defeat the Nazis. That was sort of a side product of it, but it was an escape from the Depression for the capitalists, as well as an attempt on destroying the Soviet Union. But anyway, let me. You want to? Okay.
Well, the perspective was good. I did like. I'm sure there's other perspectives that you can share because you've been a long time in the game, and the international thing is only one side of it. There's so many more perspectives that you could share. If you're running out of time, I definitely have more questions for you. I definitely want to get through the whole set. This is all about
Can I tell you though, because you said sort of what is Workers' World Party trying to do now besides supporting all these struggles? We also want to reach out. first of all, we want to reach out. We know that there are a lot of young people who were very excited about the Bernie Sanders campaign. They were very excited about, there was a whole movement. There were a whole group of people. All of a sudden, socialism became a popular word in this country. Yeah. And there's been there's been that movement has been dampened, not just by COVID-19, but by Sanders again, second time dropping out of the race and saying, oh no, we gotta all get behind Joe Biden. And I don't even want to
talk about that. That's sad.
That is not an option for our class to get behind Biden. But I want to say that Workers' World Party wants to reach out. We want to say to people, if you're sincere about wanting to abolish and bring down the system that we live in,
right?
Look at Workers' World Party. Look at the fight for socialism. Yeah. Because we're a party that was built on the foundation that we have to change.
And
this genocidal racist system.
I will personally vouch for Workers' World, because I've been on the streets, I've been working, and whenever you see the issues or whenever you see the struggle really at its flashpoints, Workers' World has been there and they continue to be there on a regular basis. You cannot deny their presence and that they really authentically care about these issues, because they show up every time, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also don't think that one group can do it, and we would be arrogant to say, oh yeah, Workers' World Party is going to make this revolutionary change. We need every single person. We need other organizations. We actually need parties at this point to put aside some of the differences we may have had over the years.
Yeah.
And begin to unite, because I'll tell you, coming out of COVID-19, the capitalist class is going to be more united than ever for their survival. They're looking at this. This is their survival is at stake right now. We have an opportunity, given everything that has happened. I mean, there has never been a time since the Depression, really, that so many workers organized on May Day for work stoppages and strikes and actions and car caravans and all the things. I mean, but they chose May Day. May Day was something taken away from the working class by the right wing in this country. May Day was the holiday that was celebrated not during COVID-19, but celebrated all around the world. I mean, I have friends who were going to Cuba, right, for May Day, because it's such a big holiday. But this year, the unorganized workers mostly just went on strike. On May
Chris
Day.
Smalls did this thing.
So this is a movement. I mean, health workers, nurses. I mean, there were some organized and mostly unorganized. Rent strikes, the massive rent strikes, the incarcerated workers. So many people had job actions on May Day. The international longshore and warehouse workers shut down the port. They did a work stoppage here, up and down the port. On the West Coast. And they do that all the time, but one of the things they were striking for this year was the lack of PPE, so personal protection equipment. Yeah. But I just want to say that we really believe that our class needs to be more united than it is. And I want to reach out. I want to speak to the people who are out there and say, if you're looking to join a party or an organization, look at Workers' World Party. We have a website. It's available we have the URL workers.org.
All the links will be down below in the description, I guarantee it.
Great.
All the links, everything,
right. But I really want to, invite you to look at us, to join us. I know we're going to be in the streets again.
And from their years of experience,
we're doing webinars.
Yeah. From being so long in the game, they definitely have a lot of experience, and you definitely could learn a lot from attending some of their sessions. And I think it would be foolish not to. They have so many years in the struggle, decades. Even you yourself, right? Like I'm eager to talk with you again and learn from you, because I know that you've learned so much. In fact, my next question is really to address that particular situation right there. I know it's kind of tough because there's so many different things you're doing, but what actions do you think are the most productive as in terms of activism? There's so many things, right? Petitioning, flyering, like education, right? What do you choose? Yeah. So like, if people want to start to say, how can I be most effective? What can I do right now?
You mean tactics or what issue?
Tactics.
You mean tactics or issues?
Yeah, tactics. What tactics are the most effective for bringing change to this world that we need?
Well, it's really hard to see beyond this pandemic.
So how about this? When you think about
Right now.
what achievements are you most proud of, and what actions made that happen?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm most proud of. In terms of Workers' World Party, until the pandemic, we have had a weekly newspaper that has come out every week. During the pandemic, for health reasons, we suspended the print edition, and it's only available. It's an online, but we lay out an online paper, and our comrades are actually printing the paper out and mailing it to prisoners, because prisoners don't have access to the internet, and we want them to continue to be plugged in.
Well, the prisoners thing on the side, right? I think that already, like, that's such a great answer, because honestly, like, that's one of the things that really stands about Workers' World, the consistency. Like, like, it's not like they just do this work once, or there's a hotbed issue, right? Every day, week after week, month after month, that paper comes out. They show up at the rally again and again. And you got to be a warrior. You got to keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's one thing definitely Workers' World has under its belt, consistency. So yes, that's actually one of the best answers we had on this program to date. Seriously, I love that answer so much, yeah? So now, I want to ask you about...
Can I just...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, yes.
So the other thing that we've done, and I don't know if it is consistency, and I wish it wasn't just, I'm zoomed out, in a personal and political sense. But we started, as soon as the shelter in place took place, we started having weekly webinars around issues that we saw were happening in the movement, around issues that many of the comrades in Workers' World Party were involved in.
I'm coming to one of them, by the way. I'm coming to one of them, like, dead serious. I'll be at one of them. I want to check it out.
You should come this Saturday, because Saturday I will tell you, Saturday went from being, unfortunately, a national conference, and it was going to be an open conference in New York City on Saturday. We were going to reach out to people who were interested in fighting for socialism and try to bring them to a meeting. So unfortunately, we're having what we call an extended webinar. And hopefully we can put up the link and stuff like that for the webinar, so that people can hook in. And I would invite you. It starts. The
link will be below in the description. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So it's hopefully so that's one of the consistencies. We've also supported caravans, and we've supported in-person rallies with social distancing. We're definitely very aware. We do not want to endanger members of our class. We're not like Trump, who wear a mask. But we want to support the survival of our communities, because we are not living in a country that has health care for all or universal health care.
Yeah.
And today, on NPR, there was even, and they so underreport everything, but there are so many people who lost their health care, because once you lose your job, you lose your health care. And Trump is, destroying Obamacare. So a lot of people are at risk.
What do you think? Sorry. What do you think? No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a good answer. Thank you. What do you think are the most common misconceptions about Workers' World?
Oh gosh, we live in an anti-communist time and an anti-communist country.
Wait, communism and socialism is not the same thing, is it?
Socialist, anti-communist. I'm just using the term that the McCarthy era. We're communists. We are.
All right.
There's no doubt about it. But in other countries, you can talk about communism. You can talk a little bit about socialism in this country. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about when a group is both Marxist and Leninist, and there's a lot of people who who think Marx is like, that was like 1848. He wrote the Communist Manifesto. That was so long ago. What we're really saying, and one of the things we're going to deal with that we're going to discuss in the webinar, is Marxism is just as alive now, even more so. Cool. Because really, the Communist Manifesto was a call to overthrow capitalism and to usher in the dictatorship or the leadership of the majority. We're really dealing, Marx the Occupy had it right. It was 99% and 1%, and that's what we're facing. In fact, it's less than 1% now, and so many of us are being thrown into the working class and into the unemployed. I mean, one of the things we're even talking about is the fact that we're going to have to start, just like the 30s. They're going to have to be organizations of the unemployed. They're going to have to be actions of the unemployed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an activist, what do you think are the biggest obstacles to your organization's success?
Well, okay. Well, so that's what I mean. I think getting through. We don't pretend to be anything other than ourselves. There's a lot of parties that sort of try to soft pedal the fact that they're socialist or Marxist Leninist. We don't do any of that. We are Workers' World Party.
Okay.
And we have to sort of break through. I want, people need to sort of open their minds.
Right.
I think, you were saying it's hard to find the truth in this country. And I would say the same thing for the idea of Marxism. I think that the ruling class has brainwashed people to think that communism is a bad word. And if you go back and you read the roots of communism, we're talking about early society where there was no money, where people lived and supported each other, and there were no class differences. Nobody had more than everyone had whatever they needed. So communism as a historical concept is a great concept.
Sure.
But what we are is we are wholeheartedly opposed to this greed, profit-driven system. And we want to overthrow it with all of our hearts and minds and bodies. And we want to bring in as many people as possible to do that, because it can't be this little palace coup. It's got to be a large number of people.
And I would just I just want to add, because you're right, like there's a lot of people who hear the word socialism, who hear the word capitalism, or not socialism or communism, right, and they think that's a dirty word. But the thing is that, still you can learn a lot of, even if you don't agree with it, it's still worth listening to these people. They represent like a good portion of our group. I mean, of our American system. And also, it's good for us. You can learn a lot from these people. They've been in the struggle, getting things done. And they're there on the forefront of all the things that really matter, like in my opinion. And I think that's really cool to at least give them a listen. Whatever you think about socialism and communism, whatever your problems are, maybe by sitting in a webinar with these people, you'll find out that they're not as bad as you think. Maybe you'll be like, oh, these people are actually kind of just regular people like me. It's possible, right? So give it at least a chance. That's what I say. You can do whatever you want, but that's what I say, right? So now the thing is, our current situation, right? Like it obviously is looking bad, like the worst that it's been in a while. But or maybe things have been really this bad all along, and people just haven't really realized. What's your take on the current situation right now?
Well, I think the current situation is particularly bad. Before COVID-19 hit, our political analysis was that capitalism was going towards a recession, that there was a overproduction, that there were many problems that were already coming out, that were going to impact the working class. We were not happy about it. We're not happy, just so you know, really clear. And I would urge people, our first secretary, Larry Holmes, just wrote an analysis in the latest, you can get it on our website, about the pandemic and about what we feel is the road to socialism. We're not happy when there's an economic crisis.
As
we're
a small
not,
aside,
we're suffering. I mean, we're talking about upwards of 50 million people being unemployed.
As a small aside, right? What about Chris Hedges? Do you think that he has it? Do you think? Do you follow him at all? Do you think he's right about this? What do you think regarding the current situation?
I don't follow Chris Hedges.
That's fine.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. He's a hot topic. Okay.
No, I will say that, and I sort of talked about it a little bit, which is the fact that this is capitalism is at a dead end. It is not. It no longer there is no way to resuscitate it at this time, which means that things are only going to get worse for our class. That it is going to be that people. I think that what will happen, or we hope that what will happen, is that more people will turn and say, well, we got to have an alternative. The system cannot provide for us. It is not going to give us a job. It is not going to give us a place to live. The police are going to become more and more oppressive, particularly in the Black and brown communities and in the working class communities. The bosses are going to bring out the police when people go on wildcat strikes. So that we're going to have to fight for a different system. The system will not be able to open up. The safety net, which never really was there, is no longer. It's free fall. Sure. It's free fall, and we're sort of saying at this point that there is no choice. We have to.
If you want to survive, something's got to change. Obviously, this is obviously not working. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and that we think that more and more people, we think that it won't be as far off a dream, that more and more people are going to be propelled, and that all revolutionary struggle doesn't just happen because you organize a demonstration or because you're the best at selling the paper. It happens because of the material conditions that you're living under. And what we're saying is that the material conditions may very well be changing so rapidly that a revolutionary situation could develop.
Okay.
And in that situation, we hope that people will be able to unite so that we can fight together rather than fighting each other, because we are not interested in fighting anybody except the ruling class and the imperialists. Those were very interested in fighting.
All right, cool. The next question is, now the thing is that there's a lot of other parties or other organizations that represent workers, right? And I really like the fact, and I think that's really a big tenet of what this whole series is about, is trying to bring about this consolidation that needs to happen, right? But there's also some things that are different about Workers' World Party, which there's reasons why they're their own group. So, what makes your organization unique amongst other organizations that may be superficially similar?
Well,
the consistency, right? The history. You guys have been in the game for almost the longest.
I think if you read our analysis of the current economic crisis, I think you will find it. I think you will find it really insightful, and I think that you will find it different. I think that our view of the working class is not orthodox Marxist-Leninist view of the working class. Our support for LGBTQ struggles, our fight against racism, and our support for African American and Latinx organizations. One of the things that we have always done is recognize the self-determination of oppressed people. Never, ever, ever tried to put our perspective or put pressure on any of these organizations to do anything differently than what they were doing. We were one of the earliest supporters of the Black Panther Party. We also were, when Workers' World Party began in 1959, it was at the time of the Cuban Revolution. And we were we immediately supported the Cuban Revolution, even before it was a socialist revolution, because it was an anti-imperialist revolution. And we supported the early Black Power movement without any reservations whatsoever, supporting and recognizing the self-determination, whether it be internationally or inside among the oppressed peoples. That has been a really important tenet of Workers' World Party. And I unfortunately haven't seen that in a lot of other parties.
Yeah, the international perspective. Yeah, that's
no,
very cool.
the Leninist principle of self-determination.
Oh, thanks. Oh, my bad. Yeah, okay.
So we say, so for example, the Black community in this country or the African American community has many, many different ideas, right? During the civil rights movement, there were some people supported integration. Some people said, no, we don't want integration. That's going to destroy what we built in the Black community. We didn't intervene and say, no, you're right, you're wrong. We supported both.
Right.
We supported the right of the oppressed communities
to self-determine,
their struggle.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's
I appreciate
really
that.
Important tenet of Workers' World Party.
That's great, actually. I'm very glad to hear that. Yeah. So now's the time for us to share all, like, hopefully people made it to the end of the video here, yeah? And it's time for us to share, and the links will all be below, of course, but what's the social media, right? You guys have the Facebook, the Twitter, right? How can people, like, follow you guys? And ladies.
How can I give you that information?
Actually, I'll put it on the screen. I'll put it in the links below. I'm definitely going to get that. I already have Facebook and Twitter.
We have a national Facebook page for Workers' World Party, which I think you get when you just type in Workers' World Party under Facebook.
Yeah.
On that page, you'll find links to the conference.
Yeah.
We also have workers.org, which is where we have a printed PDF, not a printed, but a PDF edition of the paper, as well as all of the articles, as well as the podcasts from all of the webinars that we've organized.
What about yourself? Do you also do, like, do you have your own social media that you're trying to promote, or maybe no? Okay, that's fine. Okay,
if people can reach out to me and friend me on Facebook. That's probably mostly. I also have a Twitter account, and Workers' World Party has a Twitter account.
I actually got the Workers' World Party Facebook page, and actually she's the one who responded. So she actually is checking some of the big time stuff here. Yeah. She has some responsibilities.
Also, but I mostly, honestly, work with the Workers' World Party Bay Area Facebook page.
Okay.
So,
cool. What are the organization and your personal plans for the future?
Well,
that webinar, I heard about that webinar you were promoting on Saturday. That's going to be hot. Is that
Saturday? What road to socialism?
Okay.
Really important, because that webinar will lay out, and that webinar and the article that I talked about by Secretary Larry Holmes, that I really urge you to read, will sort of lay the basis for our struggle ahead. And we don't have all the answers. We definitely don't, and we are really open to conversation with other organizations as much as possible.
Well, you'll be hearing more from me.
Unity is important.
Cool.
And we're also, honestly, when we have our webinars, we say in our webinars, we put up the screen, we say, hey, now's the time, join Workers' World Party. And we want to urge people to do that.
Hey, much respect, love out to the WWP from DJL7. You guys are cool in my book. Thanks again for your consistent work on the front lines. Always love to see that. And hey, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ed.
No problem.
Good luck with your YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. See you. Hey, folks, just so you know, me and Judy Greenspan were talking. I just want to add a little postscript over here, because there's something that a lot of people talk about, like socialism, communism. They say, you know what? The problem with socialism and communism is that there's no sense of personal responsibility. So people show up and they just slack off at work, and there's no reason to do any better. So how do you answer that critique of socialism and communism?
It's really funny, because the whole reason I am attracted to the issues, to socialism and to communism, is because of collective responsibility. I believe that capitalism is the system that, first of all, there's the fable about, you can pick yourself up from your bootstraps, anybody can get rich, but capitalism is a dog-eat-dog system. It is a system of personal responsibility, and responsibility to whom? Just to yourself, right? So get as much money as you can, kick the other person down. But I mean, the reality is, the bootstrap theory is garbage, and most of us are just barely struggling from day to day. But socialism, if you don't believe me, I will tell you, I think that Cuba is one of the best examples of a society that did such tremendous work, and that, having just been there in November and going out and visiting some of the cities and talking to people, and they have collectivized their so that everyone is working for everyone. Everyone is, and it's not that personally they aren't doing things. And I met a family of engineers. In fact, the whole family, they were all engineers, and they were Afro-Cuban, which is so unusual in this country. Most engineers are white men. This was a woman. This was actually an Afro-Cuban woman. But they have, I don't know how to describe it. Cuba, in the first year of its existence, did a national literacy campaign. And I'm a teacher, and I have worked with so many students in this country
Okay.
from poor communities who can't read, who will suffer their whole lives because they never learned to read adequately. In Cuba, they did a campaign where they recruited teachers and they recruited young people from all around the country to go into the mountains, and they have almost 100% literacy rate right now. They also have, because of the tremendous work that they've done in terms of their healthcare system, they have the lowest infant mortality rate. And that's with the sanction. We didn't even talk about Cuba and the blockade and the sanctions and all of the ways that the U.S. has been trying to destroy it since 1959, 1960. But I feel like I'm not sure what personal responsibility is important. I think all responsibility is important. But I also think that there is with socialism, it's no longer I can do this, like it's we.
Well, let me
there's
just put
absolutely
it, yeah.
and Bernie Sanders said that, right? Bernie, it's the we. And when I see that, I go, yeah, it is the we. But we got to move beyond that.
Maybe I'll insert my own little personal thing here. Usually I don't actually insert my own ideas into the podcast. Into the interviews. But my personal thing is that in this society, if you have a lot of money for some reason, we think that you are somebody who knows something, or we attribute you with some type of social prestige. But for me, right, I want to actually realign our society values, because it can be realigned. Like back in the Middle Ages, right, people who are businessmen were looked down upon. I don't want to look down on them, but what I want to do is have a new era where the people who have the most prestige are the people who have contributed the most towards humanity, not because you have money. So if you are someone who's a doctor, who's you're right, in Cuba they have very good outcomes for infant mortality. I think like heart disease or something, they have very, very high numbers. And you say, look, this is a person who's made new innovations as in terms of helping people, and he's healed so many people. This person, right, not because he's rich, this person has contributed to the rest of humanity. This person is the most high. This person is someone to be respected, who society looks up to. Not, oh, this guy has so much money.
Yeah.
Who cares? I'm not against people with money as long as they're doing something for others. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some people are born into it. You know what I mean? That's not right. You know what I mean? But if they continue to use that to help others, you are cool in my book. But if you are someone who, even if the lumpen, right, if you're whatever they call them, right, if you're someone who's even on the bottom, right, and you victimizing the rest of the community, right, even if you one of us low people, you still hurting the rest of the people, I smack you right away. You know what I mean? Get your head straight. Yeah.
And we would actually say that, this sort of traditional Marxist terminology of lumpen, we don't accept it.
Okay.
Because we believe, for example, we welcome sex workers.
Yeah.
As part of the working class, we welcome incarcerated, people into the working class. They're all part of the class that we will need to overthrow this lousy system of capitalism.
Yeah. So being personally responsible for others, or being personally responsible for your fellow man, for humanity's welfare in general, I think that's a different thing than personal responsibility for your own wealth.
Right.
I think
right.
that's
Under capitalism, that's all it is. That the whole history of capitalism is just the history of these incredibly racist, misogynist, mostly men, but some women who have, oppressed millions of people, who have attacked, who have committed genocide, so it's not a system that, right now, there was this very funny, I don't know how funny it was, but at the beginning of the pandemic on Telesur, which comes out of Venezuela, and I do recommend people check out Telesur. You can actually have it delivered to your box for free, and they have a lot of great news. They have it in English and Spanish, but they had this video about the rich going into bunkers when the pandemic first hit, taking their private physicians and their cooks and I don't know how many really went into bunkers, but that was just sort of an example of how the rich they didn't care about anybody else. They just went, and they don't really care about it. They don't even have to go into bunkers. They can probably protect themselves. And that's the whole thing. Everyone talks about the pandemic. Oh, it affects all of us equally. Well, yeah, you could contract it maybe equally, but the way you are treated in society and what you have, whether you have health care, where you live, how many people you live with, how can you shelter, how can you self-isolate if you are a migrant, undocumented family living in an apartment with 12 people?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So
And half of them have to work anyways.
virus-
Yeah, and half of them
Right.
have to go out and work in the jobs that are like the most exposed. Yeah, and doing deliveries and
Exactly.
riding the public transportation. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna get it. So,
Right.
yeah. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah. So sorry
Okay.
about the little postscript, but this was truly a special interview. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you,
Have
Ed.
a good one. Thanks.
These videos are independently produced and funded, and your support is deeply appreciated. Liking the video and subscribing helps the channel, and ringing the bell icon will keep you notified as to when we upload new content. You can also check out our other social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. We also have our event calendar, links in the description. On our Reddit, you can come in and get on the conversation and check out some of the memes. Like and share, it really helps us in the YouTube algorithm. Every week on Sunday, we have a live online meeting where you can join us in working to create and nurture the change that we need. I'd like to invite you to check out some of our other videos. Until next time, may all your actions bring you success. Stay focused, stay strong, and reinvest in yourself as well as your community. Together, our efforts can be greater than the sum of the parts. The power is in your hands. Thanks for watching.